What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade coming to y'all with the analysis on the hottest topics. We're going to talk about the Warriors acquiring Gary Payton II from the Blazers for 5 second rounders. Basically, the Golden State Warriors have acquired Gary Payton II from the Portland Trail Blazers for 5 second round picks and Kevin Knox. Payton left the Warriors basically last season, and he got a 3-year, $28 million deal from Portland. He was a big part of what they did defensively, being able to guard multiple positions and being a decent scorer. The Warriors wanted to keep Payton, but were concerned about financial viability, doing so while holding James Wiseman under contract. Wiseman is a guy that gets $9 million per season because he was a number 2 pick. He hasn't really lived up to that hype, but Gary Payton was an important thing that came a part of their bench last year. The deal folded in a multi-team trade with Detroit and Atlanta, but they still was able to get it done with the Blazers. That's a lot of picks for a guy like Gary Payton, but he's still young. You still hope he can stay healthy, and he gives them another defender. I feel like they lost a lot of defense in the off season, and it's good that they was able to recoup some of that with Gary Payton, and he still has a couple more years on his deal, and he does fit. Um, and you also got to look at it. They also got to figure out this Kevin Knox thing. He has been a bust so far, and I really just don't understand what has happened with his career. I don't think he's going to stay a Blazer that long. I feel like the Blazers made a good deal. 5 first-round picks is huge for a player like Payton. That's a good payoff, considering that all you did was sign him and give him a good deal that was tradable, and you get 5 first-round picks out of it. I think that that was a steal for the Portland Trail Blazers, considering that they're already guard heavy. Also, the Los Angeles Clippers have agreed to acquire Mason Plumlee from the Charlotte Hornets for Reggie Jackson. Plumlee is on a $9 million aspiring contract. Plumlee gives them a second big behind Zubac. He's a productive big. He's going to come in. He's going to rebound. He's going to add some rim protection. He's going to be able to dunk the basketball a lot. He has the ability to play without the basketball. He's not a needy center. He doesn't have no post game. He's not the greatest scorer, but he just gives them a viable player at that center position. They had a lot of guards already with Reggie Jackson. Is good to get them some size. They're not long term committed to Mason Plumlee. He will be gone probably next year, even if they wanted to. They can always bring him back on a decent contract. The Clippers have made their backcourt in sitting out Jackson and John Wall while acquiring Bones Highland and Eric Gordon. Also, we'll talk about that later. The Clippers have also been leaked to Russell Westbrook, who is expected to be bought out by the Jazz. But I also wanted to talk about another deal that they made, which was the Eric Gordon trade. The Clippers acquired Eric Gordon from the Houston Rockets as a part of a 3-team trade. The Clippers will send Luke Kennard, who hasn't really been the greatest fit for them. He added spacing and ability to handle the ball a little bit. I don't think that he really did what they expected him to do, moving off of him just because they need a little bit more depth and a guy that can stay healthy and produce a little bit better. So it makes sense. Also, John Wall to the Rockets. He played for the Rockets already. John Wall has declined. He's not the player that he used to be. He tried to hop onto a contender and win a title. That way, I don't look at the Clippers as one of the best teams in the Western Conference anymore. They competitive, they're great, and you see them making a lot of moves to increase their chances of climbing up that ladder to be a contender again. But Reggie Jackson hasn't had the greatest season. John Wall hasn't had the greatest season for the Rockets. Memphis will also send Danny Green to the Rockets as a part of this deal. Memphis will send 3 second-round picks to the Clippers. The Clippers need picks. They kind of out of them. Second-round picks aren't the greatest, especially when you're a team like the Clippers that need a lot of talent now to help you win now. But getting Eric Gordon, getting Plumlee just adds depth to this team, adds veterans to this team, and adds scoring. In the case of Eric Gordon, a guy that can break down the defense, a guy that can hit a three, he can play make a little bit. I think that he's better than Luke Kennard at this point. and he's probably been better in general. He's a Six Man of the Year winner before. I think that he's hungry. He's ready to prove himself, and he gives them a Norman Powell type of player. The only difference is now they have two of them. The Rockets will also receive the right to swamp the Milwaukee Bucks first round pick with the Clippers this year. The Gordon was drafted by the Clippers and traded to New Orleans as a part of the Chris Paul trade. Is a fun fact. Gordon did sign a 3-year, $54 million extension with the Rockets in 2019, and Wall will probably be bought out again by the Rockets. His contract isn't worth much. He's going to be a player that I don't really know what his future is going to be. The Clipper thing didn't work out. The Rockets thing, obviously, he doesn't fit with what they're trying to do. It's going to be interesting to see what teams is going to go after John Wall. Another thing that's interesting, too, was the fact that the Clippers acquired Bones Highland from the Denver Nuggets for the second round picks in 2024 and 2025. The Nuggets were determined to trade Bones Highland by the deadline just because they couldn't re-sign him. He had a great season so far. The Clippers have searched for a point guard, though Bones Highland is a score first guard. He can play make. He's a solid defender. He's young. He gives them size. It gives them another ability to switch a lot. He can space the floor. They didn't really give up much. 2 second-round picks is not a lot for Bones Highland. I feel like he's better than 2 second-round picks that you can get. He's a productive guy. He really can score the ball. He really can take over the games. He really can be one of their best players coming off the bench. I feel like getting Plumlee, getting Eric Gordon, and Bones Highland made this team more dangerous, made them more deeper. And the fact that they still have picks and they still have some ability to move around, some more talent. I don't feel like they're locked into anything. It's just still going to be based on how far can Kawhi Leonard and how far can Paul George take them. That's going to be still the biggest key for a team like the Clippers. Can Kawhi Leonard stay healthy? Can Paul George stay healthy? And what they can do on the court. They needed a point guard. They couldn't get it done with John Wall. They couldn't get it done with Reggie Jackson. They move off them as they're getting older, and now they're going a little bit, veteran, but also a little young with Bones Highland. The Lakers also acquired Mo Bamba from the Magic for Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley didn't have the greatest season for the Lakers. Couldn't really score, couldn't really space the floor. Was an okay defender, but they needed more size because Anthony Davis don't like playing center. They're going younger now. It seems like trying to add youth to this roster, trying to have athleticism to this roster. I feel like this was a great trade. I feel like Mo Bamba is a better player than Beverly, and he has huger upside. The Lakers basically have depth after trading away Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant was a guy that was solid for them, but they wanted to go with a guy that had massive potential. He has the ability to space the floor. He has the ability to protect the rim. He hasn't been the greatest player. That's why the Magic are moving away from him. But they also have to try to sign him to an extension and get him locked in. And I don't really know how much money Mo Bamba is worth right now just because he hasn't really lived up to the hype. Um, they also, the Magic, get a second round pick for Mo Bamba. Obviously, he was a lottery pick. They really believed in him. They really feel like he can be a huge player for them in the future. Years later, he has not even become a starting caliber center. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Mohamed Bamba, which is the Lakers. The Pelicans also trade Devontae Graham and 4 second-rounders for Josh Richardson. Josh Richardson hasn't had the greatest career, no matter where he has went, but it gives them more length, it gives them more size, and give them a guy that's switchable. Devontae Graham did get a extension with the Pelicans, and he didn't really work out that well. He's small, he's streaky, he can get hot, but he hasn't really been playing that much for the Pelicans. They did get 4 second-round picks too. That's a lot. To get if you're the Spurs. So you definitely make that move 100 times out of 100 times because they are a team that's rebuilding and they're looking for young talent to put alongside the roster that they have. And anytime you get more swings at the bat, to get more talent, you definitely take it, especially because you don't need Josh Richardson at all. And Devontae Graham is a solid young player too, who is still tradable down the road. Um, I love what I have seen out of the trade deadline. There's a lot of activity like we thought. The Warriors also traded James Wiseman to the Pistons for Sadiq Bey, who also goes to the Hawks. So the Golden State Warriors have agreed to trade James Wiseman, who they basically gave up on. He hasn't been able to play, hasn't been able to develop, hasn't been able to become that guy that they needed him to become. So Detroit will take a flyer on him as his contract is almost up. With the Golden State drafted him, his contract is almost up. So Detroit going to try him out and see if they can resurrect his career there. Sadiq Bey will be moved to the Atlanta Hawks. It gives them another wing that can really shoot the basketball to a certain extent and have size and length and switchability. Atlanta will send 5 first-round picks to the Warriors. The Warriors will have saved significantly on the salary and luxury tax, trading away Wiseman, which is important because $9 million is a lot of money to give a guy that hasn't even been able to contribute at all on the court for you. And it's a huge waste of a number 2 pick when a guy can't even start for you. At this point, he's been in 3 seasons and he can't even start a game for you. So unfortunately, they had to move off of him and take a loss on that. He was supposed to be a franchise changer. They technically did win a ring with him, but they in a desperate need to get better. And I feel like the Warriors are still chasing championships, and Wiseman showed that he can't, play at all, and it's better to get rid of a wasted roster spot at that point. Wiseman, like I said, is a former number 2 pick in the draft, and the Pistons have acquired Marvin Bagley as a second-round prospect who similarly struggled in Sacramento. So they're going to see if they can take the long-term mentality with Wiseman, certain things that they do makes sense. They also do have Jalen Duren. I don't really feel like they needed another center, but uh, they go that way. Kevin Knox will also be included in the deal with the Pistons sending him to the Warriors. I don't really think he's going to play that much with the Warriors. Honestly, Kevin Knox, I'm surprised that he's still in the league. He's tall, he's long, he's lanky, he has a lot of potential, but he hasn't realized a lot of it, and he's also not a great defender. The Thunder will also trade Darius Bazley to the Suns for Dario Saric, a second-round pick. The Thunder, you don't really see them doing big moves. They have their core. They're trying to get Chet Holmgren healthy. Darius Bazley was a guy that really didn't play that well for them. He was a young player that you rather get rid of him just because a second round pick is worth more than Darius Bazley at this point. The Suns previously attempted to unload Saric as a part of the Kevin Durant deal, but they was able to get it done here to the Thunder and get a second round pick. They traded a lot of first round picks. It's good to get some picks in return, and they was able to do that in this trade with the Thunder. Um, and they also will get Darius Bazley. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't really think he's that great. The Hawks also chose to keep John Collins. He was a guy that was hot around the trade deadline. The Hawks feel like they was better with him than without him. So that was something that surprised a lot of people um, today, that John Collins was a part of a lot of rumors. The Nets also declined a Ben Simmons for Bam Adebayo in a three-way trade with the Jazz during Donovan Mitchell talks. I think that would have been a huge deal, but Bam has really proved that he's one of the better players. Russell Westbrook is also interested in the Clippers. He's also interested in the Heat. That's something that's interesting out there. The Hawks did trade also Justin Holiday, who hasn't really produced well for them off the bench, and they also Frank Kaminsky goes to the Rockets for Garrison Matthews and Bruno Fernando. They had to get rid of Kaminsky. He hasn't really gave them what they needed. I don't really think he's going to do much for the Rockets either. He's not the biggest difference maker. Um, and then you look at Justin Holiday. The Hawks had to get off of him just because him and Aaron Holiday hasn't really did what they supposed to do offensively or even been great contributors defensively. You also look at the Knicks, Bulls. They was trying to get a Zach LaVine trade to go through. Didn't really happen in their favor. The Blazers also acquired Matisse Thybulle. The Sixers get Jaden McDaniel from the Hornets. Matisse is a great player. I feel like he's one of the best defenders in the league. He was an All NBA defender a couple seasons, and I think that that's just a great thing for the Blazers to get more defense and get more size and get more length, considering that they don't want to blow up the Damian Lillard experiment. And you look at the fact they didn't really have to give up much. Um, I think that when you look at the fact that the Sixers get Jalen McDaniels, this is a young guy that gives them switchability and versatility. They didn't really want to make too many trades this off season and during the trade deadline because they're still trying to figure out the James Harden fit with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris. But more on the Blazers trade Matisse Thybulle from the Sixers as a part of three-way trade. The Sixers will acquire Jaden McDaniels in this trade. The Hornets will receive multiple second-round picks. I think the Hornets really do need more picks as they try to rebuild around LaMelo Ball, who has been an all-star caliber player. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. The Sixers were expected to trade Thibault, who was largely out of their rotation because he can't really shoot the ball that well or space the floor. He doesn't really fit what they're trying to do. Thibault is also a restricted free agent, so you can resign him long term and keep him for a while, and he's always going to have value because his defense is that good. Um, and they was able to get him in Portland. Portland also will reroute Luke, who was a part of the Josh Hart trade with the Knicks to the Hornets. So Steve will be moved to the Hornets. Josh Hart will be moved to the Blazers. From the Blazers to the Knicks. And it just makes sense. You know, the Knicks needed more defense on the perimeter. Um, and I feel like that's something that makes sense. The Rockets also feel like they want to make a move to get Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. If I'm the Nets, I'd rather keep them because you do need wing defenders and you need guys that can shoot and space the floor, even if you're trying to build a team in the future. The Pacers also acquired Jordan Noir, Serge Ibaka, George Hill, and 2 second-rounders from the Bucks. I feel like this is a good move because Jordan is a guy with decent play. He can score the ball. He can handle the ball. He also can shoot the ball off the dribble. He also can shoot it within space. Serge Ibaka wanted out of the Bucks, and he actually got moved. I don't really know if he's going to stay with the Pacers long term as they're a younger team. George Hill is also a part of that trade. He hasn't really did much for them. He's older, and they need more guys that can really contribute just because they're still trying to win a championship in Milwaukee and 2 rounders for the Bucks. So basically, the Pacers get Jordan, Serge, and George Hill and 2 second-round picks as a part of the Milwaukee Bucks acquisition of Jay Crowder. Milwaukee sent out 5 first-round picks in exchange for Crowder. The Pacers will waive Goga Batadze, who hasn't really worked out in this trade. Um, he's now gone. You look at the fact that Joe Tsai and Sean Marks adored Kevin Durant and wanted to accommodate him with the Suns, and they was able to do that. That was the biggest trade of today. The Nuggets also acquired Thomas Bryant from the Lakers, Devon Reed, and 3 second-round picks. The Lakers wanted to move Thomas Bryant, who has been one of their best players. Denver definitely needed more size and more athleticism to go with Jokic. They ended up getting that in Thomas Bryant. Devon Reed is what they gave up, and they also had to give up 3 second-round picks. I feel like they needed a backup center with size and length for Nikola Jokic and give them a little different of a look, and a guy that can also play with Nikola Jokic if they want to go big, and they get that with Thomas Bryant. But I think they didn't really give up much. You give up Devon Reed and 3 second-round picks for a starting caliber player. You definitely do that. Um, the Bucks, like I said before, they trade 5 second-round picks for Jay Crowder. That's a lot to me, considering that Jay Crowder hasn't played all season and he's a little streaky. The Bucks have had consistency issues with shooting the basketball all season, and I don't think Jay Crowder add much to that. He gives them a guy that's switchable length, that gives them size. At the small forward slash power forward position, gives them depth at that position. The Nets acquired Jay Crowder as a part of that team, 3-team trade with the Phoenix Suns. The Suns have shopped Crowder for months, and the Bucks were always trying to get him. And now they finally was able to get Jay Crowder, but it did cost them 5 second-round picks, which is a lot for a guy like Jay Crowder, who I don't think is a huge difference maker. Um, at the end of the day, the Celtics also acquire Mike Muscala from the Thunder for Justin Jackson and 2 second-round picks. I feel like Mike Muscala has been a solid player. He can space the floor. He remind me of a stretch forward, and the Celtics want more speed. They want more size. Justin Jackson hasn't really did much, and they have a bunch of picks that they can give. The Celtics are in win now mode. They're trying to get deeper. They're trying to have all the lineups that's needed and required to win. And I feel like this just gives them more depth and gives them another shooter, and they didn't really have to give up much to do it. 2 second-round picks. Mike Muscala is better than that. Um, and I don't think Justin Jackson was a quality player. I feel like they got rid of a guy that couldn't really do much for him for a guy that can really play some good minutes for him. I think that when you look at the trade deadline, this has been pretty fun to see all these teams make minor moves and huge moves or moves that can increase their future. A lot of young guys can get paid now, like Bones and like Mohamed Bamba. A lot of teams are still trying to rebuild. You got guys like Reggie Jackson, John Wall, that's going to be on the buyout market, still competing for spots. Terrence Ross might be bought out by the Magic. He finally is at the last years of his deal. He gives another explosive guy that can come off the bench and shoot the ball and give spacing and get his own shot. The Wolves are not expected to pursue Patrick Beverly, who had a great season for them last year. He didn't really play that well for the Lakers, so it's going to be interesting to see where his career goes. Raptors was asked the Clippers for Terrence Mann at the minimum for Fred VanVleet, but the deal didn't go through, unfortunately. So VanVleet will stay a Raptor. Miles Turner wasn't moved. He ended up getting his extension. I feel like you want to keep him around as long as you can just because he's a rim protector. He can score. He can space the floor. He's not the greatest player ever, but he's a productive center that gives you a lot of what teams lack, which is a center that can do multiple things on the court. I'm proud that he got his extension and he was able to, show that he still is a valuable starter in this league. I feel like the Lakers got better. The Clippers got a lot deeper and moved around a lot of their pieces to fill a lot of their holes and get a lot more better players that really want to prove themselves on this roster. Got a set of guys that's aging and really falling out of favor. And, I think that the trade deadline really, showed that a lot of teams haven't gave up. A lot of teams feel that they can still win. A lot of teams wanted to shore up their rosters. A lot of teams wanted to tweak what they have done over the last couple seasons and go all in because they feel like they still can win it all. This is an open race. I don't feel like it's one team ahead of the other. I still feel like the Celtics are the best team. They even had to make them a move to make them a little bit more deeper and have a little bit more productivity on that bench. But other than that, it's really been fun. It's really been exciting. It's going to be interesting to see what else happens in the buyout market. It's a lot of quality players that's still available. We're going to see what happens with their career and where they choose to go. A lot of veterans out there now that's going to really be able to try to resurrect their career or be able to make some more longevity moves with their next destination, and then they got to reprove themselves again, which is unfortunate, but it is part of the business. If you're not good enough, teams are going to replace you. Teams are going to feel that they need to go in a different direction, and it's ugly. You got to find a new home. You got to find a new place to play, and you have to compete for another spot all over again. And it's not the funnest time of the year for certain players, but ain't much I can say too. It's part of the game. It's part of the business. And seeing a guy like Reggie Jackson, John Wall, that was fighting to stay in the league and happy to still be in the league and to see them get moved. Um, After it seemed like they was happy where they was, and a couple months later they're gone. It's the ugly side of the business part, but hopefully they can find them a roster that they can contribute and help another team win. And same with Russell Westbrook, he still is a guy that can play. He still is a guy that has a lot to offer other teams, but it's a lot of point guards out there. He's probably the best one available. What difference can he make off the bench for another team? And we're going to see where he ends up going. Other than that, Quinn Wade, basketball analysis, signed out on the trade deadline. Did it as smooth and as quick and as in depth as I could. A lot of these moves are minor. A lot of these moves aren't game changers. A lot of these moves aren't the hugest thing. It's just teams just tweaking their roster, adding quality players. You need others that can make, impact on your team and give you more versatility and give you more options that you normally didn't have, whether it's defense or offensively. And once you got your star players, once you got your core intact, it's just about sprinkling in, the right amount of talent. And that's what a lot of these teams was doing at the trade deadline. They couldn't go for the home run. They made, cuts around the edges to make things a lot more simplified and a lot more easier, and really change the trajectory of what their team can be. Let's extend our window a little bit longer by putting the right guys around our stars. Now stars have to be stars to deliver when it matters most. In playoffs is when the stars are supposed to deliver it. We're getting closer to the playoffs, and there's still a lot of good others out there on the buyout market. Other than that, I'm gone.